Yeah. Hi everyone, I'll start by giving some background on Vectorcom and how it ended up in this situation. Vectorcom was once one of the biggest players in the telecommunications industry, known for its fast growth and competitive edge. Under former CEO Marcus Reynolds, the company had a really aggressive, high pressure culture. People worked long hours, burnout was common, and it was basically a win at all cost environment. That culture helped Vectorcom grow quickly, but also came with major problems like unethical behavior, corruption, and a toxic mentality that excluded a lot of employees. Eventually, a whistleblower scandal exposed corruption within top management, which led to Marcus and several executives resigning. To rebuild the company's image, the board brought in a new CEO, Elizabeth Jensen, who was known for her ethical and servant style leadership, a complete shift from the old Vectorcom. Elizabeth's goal was to completely rebuild the culture. Servant leadership is basically a people first approach. The leader's main focus is to serve and support their team rather than control them. It's built around values like empathy, listening, trust, and community. This approach made sense at the time because the company needed to repair trust, reduce stress, and show that it cared about its employees after years of fear and burnout. So she brought in things like open staff forums and feedback channels, flexible work arrangements, professional development support, and a focus on collaboration and inclusiveness. At first, it worked, morale improved, employees felt more valued, and the toxic culture began to fade. But over time, new problems started to appear, and Jasper will explain how and why those changes eventually failed. So now I'll hand it over to Jasper.
Yeah, so now that we understood what the kind of idea was behind changing the management style to servant leadership, we're going to look at why it failed and why it didn't work out the way it was planned to work out. And first of all, I want to look at what the common reasons in general are for organizational change to fail. And according to Kotter, one of the main reasons is the lack of a clear and compelling vision to kind of have everyone on board and that everyone knows exactly what it is about. A loss of urgency and momentum, as we can typically see that in the beginning you have a lot of emphasis on it and everyone's kind of on board, but then kind of over time you lose the focus on it. An over consensus, which can lead to slow decisions, especially if you want to switch into something like a servant leadership style that involves hearing everyone and involving everyone. And lastly, if you don't reinforce the new culture through system of rewards, as in getting the team, if they achieve the change you want it to be, some bonuses or some feedback in a positive way. And also in general, according to Kotter, most change projects fail. So when there's not really the need to change, you shouldn't change at all. Obviously, in the case here, there was a need to change, but just to keep in mind, change always has a risk with it and a high chance of failing. And in the case of Vectorcom, applying those common reasons, we can see that the vision is just simply too idealistic. And it's just basically the old leadership style was performance, and the new one is everyone's doing well, harmony, and not really about competitiveness. And in a way, kind of just impossible to have in the business world, just this very idealistic way of everyone's doing well and it's not about competitiveness. The consensus overload, there's endless discussions when it comes to everyone's being heard, everyone's allowed to bring their meaning into something, which also leads to a comfort culture where there's no urgency to innovate, no urgency for performance, and just basically about doing well and harmony. And lastly, also, you have some nostalgia and resistance in the people who wanted the old leadership style back again because they weren't really happy with the new one. And so basically, you can say that the servant leadership solved the ethical problems, but not really solved anything for performance. And that brings me to my last slide, which is basically maybe also saying that servant leadership is not a full solution and more something that you can do in combination with different leadership styles, because it is the strength in it says a lot of empathy, trust, and inclusion, but it's also limited because the performance is not on the main focus, which brings us to the question that maybe a combination of the two leadership style is the best way to go, which is now going to be talked about in the next part.
Thank you, Jasper. I will now discuss a variety of different leadership styles that may be implemented by Vectorcom technologies. Transactional leadership. That was the leadership style used by Marcus Reynolds. This style uses rewards and punishments to keep employees in check and align them with direct and clear goals. Although this style focuses highly on clear instructions, it does hinder collaboration and creativity due to the rigid environment it creates. This did not work in the long term under Reynolds, as this style produced ethical dilemmas such as burnout and corruption. Servant leadership. This leadership style, utilized by Elizabeth Jensen, focuses on serving employees' welfare, growth, and development within the workplace before the goals of the organization. Though this style promotes a trusting and safe culture that values employee feedback, it reduces the ability and response of decision making, slowing the rate of innovation and performance. Democratic leadership. With this style of leadership, everyone gets a voice and the main focus is on collaboration. This has strong ethical and moral qualities, but would suffer the same result as servant leadership. The high focus on participation rather than having an authoritative figure would result in slower processes and indecisiveness. Transformational leadership. The transformational leadership style is about a vision and inspiring their following to want to accomplish the set goals. The focus on inspiration and empowerment leads to increased innovation and performance. However, this can be overpowering due to the lack of support or empathy of the leader. Charismatic leadership. Charismatic leadership inspires their following through their magnetic personality and passion. This can easily put the focus on the individuals rather than the team, which can cause tunnel vision. This can lead to slow organizational growth and ineffective long-term success. I'll now hand you over to Lockie.
After analyzing and evaluating a variety of diverse leadership styles as options, we can identify that no independent leadership style will suffice. However, for the specific needs of Vectorcom, we conclude that the use of a hybrid of transformational and servant leadership will be most effective for Vectorcom technologies to implement. Individually, each leadership on their own may be too overpowering to opposite ends of the spectrum, but together they balance out each other, creating a sweet spot that reflects what is needed by leadership in the environmental culture as well as support for change. This approach would utilize the collaborative and empathetic focus of servant leadership and the visionary and inspirational qualities of transformational leadership. This hybrid combines the use of collaboration, care, and support from management without losing its authoritative role and a vision as a leader. The hybrid model focuses on communication and collaboration without losing the competitive decision-making process. The visionary aspects of transformational leadership provide structure and empowerment for Vectorcom, while servant leadership emphasizes support and focus on ethical procedures. This model empowers employees to achieve the vision put in place by the leader, accompanied by the leader's support and collaboration when needed. The strategy is planned and decided through collaborative team involvement. This eliminates the risk of repeating the previous issues that Vectorcom has encountered and establishes a new, fresh hybrid style that takes the benefits of previous leadership without the limitations. This structure not only empowers the team to accomplish their very best, but also maintains organizational growth. Whilst hybrid leadership models restores the innovation and higher performance that Jensen's Vectorcom lacked, along with its ethical standards and employee morale, challenges still persist, highlighting future issues that the company must prevail through. The challenge of maintaining the balance of servant leadership's empathy and the transformational leadership's assertiveness can be difficult, especially in high-pressure industries. If either leadership is used too frequently or ineffectively, it may either undermine authority or undermine the safe and inclusive environment within the workplace culture, along with continuous employee training and possible resistance over performance expectations is implemented or used correctly, the hybrid model will result in organizational success and avoidance of repeating Vectorcom's cultural failure. I will now pass it on to Albie.
Thank you.
Yeah. How do I achieve the change? As we've seen, Vectorcom's leadership story is extreme and has put stress on the company's functions. Mark Reynolds' authoritarian, performance-driven approach, compared to Elizabeth Jensen's overly cautious servant leadership approach, has had the same problem, which is imbalance. To restore stability and growth, it's recommended that Vectorcom embrace a transformational leadership style that uses strategic ambition and ethical management, as well as aspects of the servant leadership style that were beneficial to the company, all with the use of Lewin's research in organizational change. Implementing this shift requires a structured organizational change process, which can be done smoothly and effectively using Lewin's change management frameworks. Lewin's change framework of unfreezing, changing, and refreezing. This unfreezing creates urgency and coalition, where the goal is to get people ready for change while breaking down pre-existing cultures that will be made unacceptable or inappropriate for the coming reform. The changing involves getting people to accept the new change and adopt behaviors where the goal is to get people to move away from the old traditions and structures. And the refreezing, which is to stabilize and change and institutionalize it into the company culture. First, leadership development programs should be introduced to managers who are specialized in transformational behaviors, such as empowering teams through constructive challenges and communication rather than directive control and transactional productivity. These programs can be supported by mentorship program networks that pair experienced innovators with new leaders to foster mutual learning. Secondly, Vectorcom needs to redefine its performance systems. Recognition and rewards should emphasize both ethical attention and innovation. And by linking employee incentives to creativity and long-term value, the organization expresses its value in calculated risk and collaboration to come to the greatest possible outcome. Thirdly, the company must rebuild its decision-making structures to encourage strategic agility without sacrificing the inclusion of its greater employees. Transformational leaders empower employees to make informed decisions within clear financial and time limits. By introducing agile project teams and streamlined communication channels, Vectorcom can react faster to the market changes while maintaining the transparency and trust that Jensen's servant leadership embodied. Finally, effective change requires consistent and transparent communication. Employees must understand more about what is changing and why it is changing and how it will affect them. And by clearly stating how the transformational leadership, along with the aspects of servant leadership, the Vectorcom's new purpose, which is to innovate boldly while valuing its people, leaders can rebuild that morale, trust, and shared direction and purpose without burning out its employees. Overall, transformational leadership offers Vectorcom the bridge between ethical integrity and competitive aggression. It allows itself to learn from previous mistakes while creating a dynamic, strategic culture. And by managing the change deliberately and not emotionally, Vectorcom can embed a culture that's both human and high performing. Thanks.